let's talk about what we were going to do. Were we doing a motion at 8:30 or was it to now? I think we may have said two things.
There are two, Judge.
Okay.
One now and then
Okay.
Mr. Peterson was 8:30.
Mr. Peterson's the one in the morning.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, can I put something on the record just in the meantime?
Can you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I put something on the record?
You may.
In regards to next. Just putting this on the record in regards to Defense Exhibit 30, which were Tara Baker phone records. If undersigned counsel understands Mr. Bowden's objection correctly, it was that the records were hearsay and I needed to lay a foundation for the business records.
Wait, Mr. Cruz, I probably should have asked you what you need to put on the record. What is it that you're doing?
I was just going to put the grounds of admissibility for D30. That's all.
But I've already heard the objection and ruled on it.
No, I wasn't asking for a ruling, Your Honor. I was just asking to preserve the record.
Well, the record is preserved because it's being transcribed. I'm not sure I know what you're referring to.
Please forgive me.
Okay.
So I didn't quite understand Mr. Bowden's objection, so I didn't put my response to his objection once I understood it that it may be a hearsay objection on the record. What I intend to put on the record, if I may, is just simply that the phone records are non-hearsay because they are computer-generated records. So if his objection was that it needed a business record certification to come in as hearsay, our response would be that it is non-hearsay because these records were computer-generated. That's all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Bolden, did you want to respond then to Mr. Cruz's response?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, what are we going to handle this afternoon since we're doing something at 8:30 as well?
Your Honor, we are prepared, state is prepared to address Mr. Cruz's Daubert motion filed back on October 2nd of last year. The court may remember that the state, I think we made a joint motion to continue this. The state's reason for doing so is that pardon me, Your Honor, is that our witness, who is currently right outside the courtroom, would be traveling from California, and we were trying to see if we could only require her to travel here once. And so what the plan was, as I understood it, was to have her testify outside the presence of the jury for the Daubert purposes, and then, depending on the court's ruling, we would have her testify tomorrow morning.
Hold on just a minute. I'm trying to find your motion. You said the motion you're referring to, it was October 2nd? So you want to have the Daubert motion now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I just need to find it.
And I would object to having it now. I would like notice to prepare for the hearing. I know we said that we would have it when she gets ready to testify, but we never set a date certain. So I would ask for time to prepare for her hearing as opposed to doing it on the spot now. I don't have all my items.
All right. Tell me the name of the person that you were asking to exclude the testimony of?
Marissa Licon.
Okay, I just have to find, oh, here it is. All right. All right, Mr. Bolden, do you care to respond to this defendant's request?
Your Honor, Ms. Licon, like I said, is right outside the courtroom. The state's ready to go. I thought that was what we had discussed this morning, so we're ready.
Okay.
I'm requesting more than the same day notice for hearing on this Daubert.
Okay, well, let me say a couple of things. So first, I think it's appropriate for counsel to always be prepared for motions they know that are coming up. I mean, we have discussed this. I remember it now. I'm looking at the motion. There were several, I think, that we were going to have before the testimony. Now, I think it's appropriate for all counsel to always be prepared once trial starts anything can go. So I will say that. This is what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to let the state present their side, and if you're not prepared to go forward, we will address it tomorrow at 8:30. All right, you may proceed, Mr. Bolden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Marissa Licon?
Could you get Marissa Licon, please?
You can go ahead and have a seat if you'd like. Ma'am, can I get you to raise your right hand, please? You swear or affirm that your testimony in the matter pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. If you could state your name and spell it for our court reporter, please.
My name is Marissa Licon, and it's spelled Marissalicon.
Where are you employed, ma'am?
I'm employed at Pure Gold Forensics.
Where is Pure Gold Forensics located?
We're in Southern California.
What what is Pure Gold Forensics?
We're a private accredited DNA forensic laboratory. So as a private lab, we provide services for prosecution, defense, as well as private parties.
How long have you been working at Pure Gold Forensics?
Since May of 2022, approximately 3.5 years.
Okay. And can you tell the court a little bit about the responsibilities you've had at Pure Gold since you started working there?
Yes, so I started as a laboratory assistant, which consisted of maintaining the laboratory cleanliness, receiving and sending back evidence, maintaining chain of custody of that evidence, as well as any administrative duties, as well as I'd maintain the temperature logs in the laboratory and clean our instruments. Do you want me to go to my duties now?
Yeah, and then after working as a laboratory assistant, were you promoted to the title of forensic scientist?
Yes.
And when did that occur?
In February of 2024.
Okay. Tell the court a little bit about your responsibilities as a forensic scientist.
As a forensic scientist, I perform serology testing as well as DNA casework using Global Filer and Y-Filer amplification kits. I analyze mixtures using StarMix probabilistic genotyping software, and I analyze the data and produce scientific reports based on that data.
You mentioned StarMix just a minute ago. Are you familiar with TrueAllele?
I'm familiar.
Okay, and I guess my question would be, are those kind of competing brands of
Yeah, there's
genotyping software? Okay. Talk to the court, if you will, a little bit about your educational background.
I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in forensic chemistry with a concentration in criminalistics from California Baptist University.
Can you speak a little bit to any specialized training that you've had as it relates to your job as a forensic scientist at Pure Gold?
As far as like continuing training or
Yes,
just
exactly.
training in general?
Yes.
So as analysts, we're required to complete at least 8 hours of continuing education per year. That can include lectures, conferences, webinars that brings analysts up to date on current technologies and information, as well as we're required to complete monthly reading in the laboratory on scientific articles, anything having to do with DNA analysis.
Do you belong to any professional organizations?
Yes, I'm an affiliate member of California Association of Criminalists, as well as a professional affiliate of American Academy of Forensic Sciences.
In your role as a forensic scientist at Pure Gold Forensics, do you have the occasion to run testing on items of evidence that may be submitted in an attempt to ascertain their possible biological origin?
Yes, so at our lab, we offer testing for different biological fluids. We offer blood, semen, saliva, urine, as well as microscopic examination of vaginal epithelial cells and identification of spermatozoa.
Ma'am, have you previously testified as an expert?
Once before,
Okay, and where was that?
in Colorado.
And do you recall what you were tendered as an expert in?
DNA analysis.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to tender Ms. Licon. Well, I haven't finished talking yet.
Go ahead, sir.
I would move to tender Ms. Licon as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology.
Okay, forensic chemistry. All right, Mr. Cruz, any objection? And
Yes.
we talked about your needing to go get your information, and so let me know, do you want to proceed or do you want to adjourn and come back at 8:30 and finish any cross-examination?
I think I'll proceed, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, sir.
And just to make sure before I proceed, Your Honor, can you repeat what the state is tender her as an expert in?
Yes, what I wrote down, Mr. Bold, to make sure that this is correct, is that he is asking to tender this person as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology. Is that correct, Mr. Bold?
It is, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Can you tell the Honorable Court what forensic chemistry is?
Forensic chemistry would be, well, it's chemistry, so the study of elemental composition with a forensics application.
Can you explain that in layperson terms?
So it would be like chemical substance in reference to forensics, so having to do with evidence examination.
Okay, in what way?
So, for example, an example that comes to mind would be blood alcohol content. So, testing that in regards to like a legal matter.
Okay. You would agree that you're not here today to testify about blood alcohol content. Is that fair?
That's correct.
You would also agree that you have never been admitted in any court as an expert in forensic chemistry. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Nor have you ever been admitted as an expert in forensic biology. Is that correct?
I would say that a DNA expert is an expert in biology.
Sure, but you're not here today to discuss DNA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What are you here today to testify about?
Serology testing.
And I believe you said you've been in your field since, did you say you graduated in May of 2024?
I graduated and was hired at the lab in May of 2022.
2022, okay. And from May 2022 to February 2024, and I'm going to go point by point, your duties included maintaining temperature and cleaning logs. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Okay. That's not on your resume or your CV?
Well, yes, my title changed in between there. So I started doing serology cases in August of 2022.
And what type of serology testing are you here to testify about?
Vaginal epithelial cell testing as well as saliva testing.
You'd agree that epithelial cells are all throughout the linings of the body.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and the mouth, is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would object. I think at this point, we're just trying to voir dire the witness as to whether or not she's an expert. Now, he's
Correct, that is
certainly
correct.
sound like, anyway.
Okay, well, I'm going to advise all counsel that we are having a hearing under 702.
Correct.
All the factors under 702A, B, and particularly B 1, 2, 3, and 4 need to be addressed in order for the court to make a decision. So you may continue, but at the same time, Mr. Bolden is correct. This is not necessarily about the entirety of her testimony, but I'm going to let you continue.
Yes, ma'am. So can you tell me about your experience with identifying vaginal epithelial cells from oral epithelial cells?
As far as the method we use in our laboratory, or can you clarify?
Yes, ma'am. How many times have you been asked to differentiate oral epithelial cells from vaginal epithelial cells?
Between training and casework, possibly around 50 times.
And there is a test to separate epithelial or differentiate oral epithelial cells from vaginal epithelial cells?
A presumptive test, yes.
Okay. And what's the name of that presumptive test?
Lugol's iodine presumptive test for vaginal epithelial cells.
Okay. Now, would you agree that a presumptive test is a test that requires a confirmatory test to make a determination whether the substance is what you believe it to be?
I wouldn't say it requires. A presumptive test alone is just an indication that a substance may be present.
So the Lugol's iodine test is what you're here to testify about today, is that right? Not today, but testify about, is that correct?
Correct.
But from what you just stated, this testing is just to determine if something may or may not be present. Is that fair?
An indication if something's present.
Okay, it's an indication that something may be present, correct?
Yes.
What is the confirmatory test that is done following a Lugol's test?
There's no confirmatory test for vaginal epithelial cells that I'm aware of.
Okay. Excluding the I'm aware of portion, do you know why there isn't a confirmatory test?
Yes, because some buccal oral secretions, well, I guess I would have to explain kind of the test further. Is that okay?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
And again, Your Honor, I think I still have this witness on direct. I understand that the procedures allow Mr. Cruz to voir dire her as to her expert qualifications so that we can establish that for the record, and then the state would intend to go about its direct examination about the testing that Ms. Licon did. So can we just get past that first hurdle?
That's actually true. I sort of got far afield. You're actually right. We got to do this in two separate portions.
Sure.
Your objection was to the state tendering this witness as an expert
Correct.
in forensic chemistry and forensic biology.
Correct.
Your objection, I'll let you voir dire her for your objection.
Correct. And
Right.
I don't mean to cut the honorable court off.
That's all right. Anything else you want to ask her with regard to that objection before we get into whether 702 is met?
Oh, okay, let me make sure I understand, because maybe I understood differently. I was asking her questions regarding B2 and B3. I was getting into that area. Are you saying you would like me to focus only on
There are two parts
Like-
to this Dauber motion.
Sure.
We kind of got far afield on that. So my question to you now is, do you object to this person being tendered as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the reasons for that?
I was getting into the examination with her regarding.
That's for the next portion of the motion.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So if If the Honorable Court would like to answer now, one, this witness has, and correct me if I say anything wrong. I don't want you to think I'm trying to, I just forget sometimes. But this witness has never been tendered to testify as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology for this particular test. From what I understand, she stated is that her expertise that she has been admitted in court on is DNA.
That's correct, but I would argue that that encompasses also serology testing.
Sure. Does that encompass Lugel's iodine test?
Yes.
You've been admitted to testify, if I may, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
You've been admitted to testify as an expert in regards to Lugel's iodine test in a court?
No.
And the reason for that is because it is a presumptive test. Is that fair to say?
I haven't been called to testify ever on the specific test.
Oh, wow. So this is the first time you've been asked to.
Yes.
This
Your Honor, once again, we are venturing so far astray of the purpose of the voir dire of the expert or the witness's expert qualifications.
So I'll make my objection
Go
simple.
ahead and make your argument.
That's
Go
fair.
ahead.
As far as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology, I would object to her being tendered as an expert to just those broad ranges of fields. As she mentioned, it includes multiple areas. If the state wants to narrow her expertise, I could address it at that time. But as of right now, I do object to her just generally being tendered as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology just as a whole.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule your objection. I'm going to admit this witness as an expert in forensic chemistry and forensic biology. The next question is whether 702 is satisfied. So, Mr. Bolden, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you say, I'm sorry, just so I'm saying it correctly, can you say your last name one more time?
Licon.
Licon.
Yes.
Probably said it wrong. Okay. Ms. Licon, back in, let's see, bear with me. Where's all my stuff? Back in October of 2024, did you receive items from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
I believe it was in September of
September,
2024.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you receive from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
We received 2 items of evidence, which were apparent cuttings of swabs.
Okay. Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Licon, showing you what I marked as states 126 and 127. Do you recognize those?
I do.
What are they?
They're the items of evidence we received.
Okay, are those photographs fair and accurate depictions of the items that you received?
Yes.
Any material alterations, deletions, or changes to those photos?
No.
Move to tender states 126 and 127.
Any objections? All right. For the purposes of this hearing, I will admit them.
Ms. Licon, I know we don't have a jury here, but I'm going to put some stuff up on the Elmo just because I think it'll be helpful for everybody else. States 126. That is a picture of one of the 2 envelopes that you received from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And that is item 2I or oral swabbings B, is that right?
Yes.
And once that piece of evidence arrived at pure gold, did you give it the number 1?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then states 127 is just, is that the other, I guess, box or envelope of evidence that you received from the GBI?
Yes.
Okay, and is that item 2J or oral swabbings A?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you give, once that arrived in pure gold, did you give it the identifying number 2?
Yes.
Okay, so just want to make sure we're all clear. What were you asked to do with those 2 samples?
So I reviewed the case file and saw that we were requested to perform vaginal epithelial cell testing as well as saliva testing.
Okay. And is that something that is done at Pure Gold?
Yes.
Are there internal protocols and memoranda discussing? I'm going to start with the saliva testing.
Okay.
Because I think you mentioned Lugol iodine. Did you also perform saliva testing on those 2 items that we just showed?
Yes.
Okay. Second approach, Your Honor.
May?
I'm going to show you what's the mark of states 128 to 129. What is states 128?
128 is our laboratory procedure for our saliva testing.
Okay. And what is states 129?
Our laboratory procedure, I'm sorry. This is our validation study for RSID saliva.
Okay. And are both of those documents something that is kept at Pure Gold Forensics?
Yes.
And are those both, I guess, I moved to tender states 128 and 129, Your Honor.
Mr. Cruz?
May I see those documents, Your Honor?
You may.
Mm-hmm.
I would object to those documents, Your Honor. I would ask for a more appropriate foundation. The documents that I don't even know how to identify them, but the state says images that they introduced. The state hasn't mentioned what journal they're from, if they're from a journal, if there's something someone typed up. I was just asking for a more thorough foundation.
I think Mr. Cruz. Mr. Golden, you care to respond to the objection?
Yes, Your Honor. I think, we're under, this is a kind of the issue which I think is governed by OCGA 24-1-104 as a preliminary question. And the court's not bound by the rules of evidence. I'm just trying to get this witness to be able to explain what the science behind the test is and the way that the test is conducted in the lab, which again is absolutely relevant for purposes of the hearing based on Mr. Cruz's motion.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
And so are they tendered, Your Honor?
They are tendered over objection. Admitted over objection. You tendered them, they are admitted over objection. For the purpose of this
For
hearing.
the purpose, of course, Your
Yes.
Honor. So, I'm going to go a little out of order. So, ma'am, the RSID saliva test, kind of describe how that tests, what the science is behind that test.
So it's a lateral flow strip test that tests for the presence of human salivary alpha amylase, which is an enzyme found within saliva. So lateral flow strip test, we deposit the sample along with buffer onto a test kit. Within the test kit is a membrane that has antibodies that are specific for the antigen, which in this case is the alpha amylase. So if alpha amylase is present, the antibodies will bind to the antigen. And a positive test will result in 2 visible lines, and a negative test will result in a singular control line.
Does it kind of look like a COVID test?
Yes, or like an at-home pregnancy test.
And so what states, that was states 129. Actually, I wanted to ask a little bit more about that. In validating the RSID saliva study, did Pure Gold test for the sensitivity of that particular test?
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about that?
So we tested, well, I didn't participate in the validation, but I reviewed it. And so what was tested was dilutions of saliva. So on our procedure, we determined that 10 nanoliters of saliva would be detected.
How many, what is a nanoliter?
There's 1 million nanoliters in 1 milliliter.
And so, so that I understand, the RSID saliva test would indicate 2 lines with 1/1,000,000th of a millimeter. Is that what I'm basically understanding, or did I misstate that?
Not, it would be 10 of a million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in kind of validating the RSID saliva test as a, I guess, preliminary or not presumptive test for the presence of saliva, are there the potential for any false positives?
Yes.
And if you could speak a little bit to that.
The most common false positives are human breast milk as well as fecal matter, also high concentrations of sweat.
So those 3 things could indicate a positive result in the absence of saliva
Correct.
or amyloids? Okay. So I think we talked about. I'm going to move next to Lugol iodine, and I'm going to mark some exhibits. I can approach again, Your Honor.
You may.
I'm going to show you what Mark states 130, 131, 132.
Okay.
I'm going to actually start in reverse order. It states 132. What is that?
This is a study that was published on the Lugol's test.
And is what you said is a study. What is that study? I guess, what does it stand for?
What's the contents of the study?
Just summarize it, I guess. That'd be my.
Okay. So in the Lugol's test, some oral secretions as well as cells from the urethral opening of the penis will. So the basis of the Lugol's test is that the glycogen content of vaginal epithelial cells is extremely high from a woman's first menstruation to menopause. So when they're stained with the iodine, the glycogen within the cells will uptake the iodine and stain a dark chocolate brown color. However, oral secretions as well as cells from the urethral opening of the penis will also stain the dark chocolate brown color. However, oral secretions have a less abundant amount of glycogen. So the study proposes that with an water extraction as well as mechanical shaking, that less than 1% of the oral secretion will stain the dark chocolate brown color.
And was that article published in, is it the Journal of Forensic Sciences in 2004? Am I remembering that right?
Yes.
Is that a peer-reviewed article?
Yes.
And, okay. States 130 and 131, as before, are those just internal memoranda or, I guess, procedures relating to Lugol iodine being used to test for vaginal epithelial cells at Pure Gold?
Yes, so 130 is our internal validation study, and 131 is our analytical procedures for the test.
Move to tender states 130 through 132.
Any objection, Mr. Cruz?
That's more of a foundation, but otherwise, no.
I'm going to overrule the objection and admit 130, 131, and 132 over objection for the purpose of this hearing.
I can approach it.
You may.
So, I think, Ms. Licon, you might have hinted at this just a second ago, but what is the theory behind using Lugol iodine to potentially test for the presence of vaginal epithelial cells?
So the theory is that the glycogen content of vaginal epithelial cells is extremely high, specifically from a woman's first menstruation to menopause. So when they're stained, the glycogen within the cells will uptake the iodine and stain a dark chocolate brown color.
And how would that test be helpful in trying to determine whether or not an item of evidence was potentially taken from a vagina versus taken from someone's mouth?
So at our lab, based on studies as well as our internal validation, we have a 10% threshold. So if more than 10% of the cells stain the dark chocolate brown color, it's considered a positive indication for vaginal epithelial cells.
Okay, and is that a higher threshold than what was proposed in the Lugol test reimagined?
Yes, it's higher.
Okay, what was, if you recall, what was the?
They proposed that anything greater than 1%, the mouth could be eliminated as the source.
Okay. So, going back to these two packages that you received from the GBI Crime Lab, when you received those items, how, or did you perform both the RSID saliva test and the Lugol iodine test on those items?
Yes.
And explain for the court how you did that. like the mechanics of conducting that test with that piece of evidence?
So first, I took the evidence into the examination room where I opened it. I took photos, took notes, and then I took it for our analytical procedure 5, which is extraction for systematic semen analysis, which is a general extraction procedure that allows the analyst to retain the substrate, which in this case was the cuttings of swabs, while using the liquid portion for serology testing or multiple serology tests, and using the cell pellet for microscopic examination or DNA testing.
Okay. And once you did that testing, I guess, do you use, bear with me, let me look back through my notes. How do you take those cuttings to kind of separate for the purpose of doing an RSID test and a Lugol iodine test? I don't know if that's a great question, but.
Yeah. So the actual procedure we use?
Yes.
So we place the substrate, which in this case was the apparent cuttings of swabs, and we place it into a test tube along with sterile water, and then we allow it to incubate at room temperature for approximately 30 to 60 minutes. During that time period, we vortex it several times, which means to shake it vigorously, which we do this by placing it on a machine. After the time period has passed, we take the substrate and we place it into what's called a spin basket on top of the tube, and then we centrifuge it, which spins the tube extremely fast, and it essentially pulls the liquid from the substrate. So while it's centrifuging, the cells also pellet at the bottom of the tube. That's what we refer to as the cell pellet. So once it's done centrifuging, we pull the spin basket off and place that into a separate tube. And then left within our tube is liquid as well as the cell pellet. So we pull the majority of the liquid off. That's what we refer to as the supernatant, and that's what can be taken for serology tests. And we place that into its separate tube, and then we're left with the cell pellet and a small amount of liquid, and that's what can be taken for microscopic examination and or DNA testing.
And so as it relates to both the item that you received, which you marked number 1, which was GBI Crime Lab item 2I, and your item number 2, GBI Crime Lab item 2J, did you do that for both of those?
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit about the results. We'll start with your item number 1. Okay. Did you perform the RSID saliva test that you previously described on that particular piece of evidence?
Yes, I did.
And what, if anything, were the results?
I would have to refer to my report.
Yeah, too many pieces. Would a copy of your report help you?
Yes.
I can approach again, Your Honor.
You may.
With the testing that you've been describing for the last 30, 45 minutes?
Yes.
Move to tender states 133.
Any objection? It is admitted for the purpose of this hearing.
So did you conduct an RSID saliva test on your item 1, GBI item 2I?
Yes.
What were the results?
Human amylase consistent with saliva was detected in item 1 using the RSID saliva test card. However, other body fluid sources like feces and breast milk cannot be eliminated.
Did you also prepare a slide and for item 2I to conduct a Lugol iodine stain?
Yes.
And there they are. What was the result of that?
Item 1 was screened for the presence of vaginal epithelial cells using the Lugol's iodine test. Fewer than 10% of the cells stained positive. Therefore, the presence of vaginal epithelial cells was not indicated on item 1.
Now let's move to item 2, which again was item 2J from the GBI crime lab. Is that correct?
Yes.
Same questions. Did you perform the RSID saliva test on that item?
Yes, I did.
And what were the results?
No indications of saliva were detected.
And did you also create a slide to prepare a Lugol iodine test?
Yes.
And what were the results there?
Item 2 was screened for the presence of vaginal epithelial cells using the Lugol's iodine test. Greater than 10% of the cells stained positive, thus indicating the presence of vaginal epithelial cells.
Ms. Licon, are either the RSID saliva test or the Lugol iodine test considered confirmatory tests?
No.
To your knowledge, based on the particular type of testing that you were asked to do in this instant, are there confirmatory tests for those questions?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Based on your observations of both the RSID saliva test and the I'm sorry, I apologize. All right, I can figure this out. Item 1, which is crime. Oh, you have it. Okay, there we go. Item 2I. Based on your observations to include the fact that that item tested positive on the RSID saliva and indicated less than 10% of stained cells using the Lugol iodine test, would that be consistent with that being oral in origin?
Yes.
Similarly, as it relates to your testing of item 2J, or your number 2, based on your observation to include a negative RSID saliva test and the presence of more than 10% of stained cells using Lugol iodine, would that be consistent with that sample being vaginal in origin?
Yes.
I believe that's all I have, ma'am. Mr. Cruz will have some questions.
Mr. Cruz?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Licon. Okay, perfect. I want to make sure I get it right. I'd like to start off by talking about the facts and data that you had in regards to this test and your conclusions. Okay, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So you established with the state that you received some swabs. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how old those swabs were?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know the condition that they were collected in?
I don't.
Okay. And would you agree with me when it comes to the Lugol's iodine test that it will, I'm going to use the word illuminate. If you have a better word, please share it. But it will illuminate starches. Is that correct?
A better word, maybe stained.
It'll stain starches. There we go.
Glycogen in particular. From my recollection, starch in particular would stain a blue color.
Blue?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe the state introduced the copies of your testing results. Do you have that with you up there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to come and grab it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't receive that.
I'm sorry, they're right here.
Would you happen to have a copy of your results?
The photograph's not in my case file, no.
Okay, that is fair. So the starch turns blue with Lugol's iodine test. What color did the cells turn in your case?
For which
For
item?
the Lugol's iodine test, for the swab that tested, or excuse me, the swab that was consistent with being a vaginal swab.
They were a dark chocolate brown color, ranging from tan to dark chocolate brown.
Is there a possibility of false positives with the Lugol iodine test?
There are other body origins that contain glycogenated cells.
And can you name those body parts?
Yes, so
Areas, excuse me.
it's oral secretion, so buccal cells, as well as the urethral opening of the penis.
So what were the steps taken, if any, to separate the swabs that you tested and them turning brown from cells from the urethra of a penis versus a vagina?
There's no specific way to separate those, like to separate the epithelial cells. We rely on the staining pattern.
So the swab that was consistent with a vaginal swab is also consistent with the swab having urethral cells from a penis. Is that correct?
I don't specifically, it says that test should not be used from swabs of the urethral opening of the penis.
And I may have asked that question the wrong way. The swab that well, let me do it this way. So the urethral cells of a penis would stain brown. Is that fair?
Some, yes.
Okay. Vaginal cells would stain brown. Is that correct?
Correct.
You received the swab. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you differentiate whether the cells that stain brown are penis cells or vaginal cells?
No.
First indulgence. So when the swabs were given to you, what were they identified as, if you remember?
2I and 2J, they're both labeled oral swabbings.
So to your knowledge, you assume that you had oral swabbings. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And is it fair to say that there could possibly be urethra, if I'm saying that right, urethra or urethral penis cells on oral swabbings? Is that a possibility?
That's a possibility.
And at this time, we don't know whether the cells that stain brown are vaginal cells or urethral penis cells. Is that right?
Again, we rely on the staining pattern, but I guess I can say what is consistent with the staining pattern. Sorry, can you maybe rephrase the question?
Sure. The results are consistent with also being cells that may be from the urethra of a penis.
The cells that stain brown?
Chocolate brown, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I like to talk about the principles and methods behind the test, okay?
Okay.
Can you walk us through step by step the process with conducting a Lugol's iodine test?
Yeah, do you want me to go back through our extraction procedure or?
Not the extraction procedure. If you could give me the shorthand version, if you give me the shorthand version, just maybe the shorthand version, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So we take it for our extraction procedure and we take the cell pellet portion, and then we take approximately 2 to 10 microliters of that cell pellet portion and we deposit it onto a microscope slide. We heat fix the slide and then we use a Lugol's iodine solution, so it's 1 part Lugol's, 19 parts water, and then we cover the slide with Lugol's iodine, and then we observe it under the microscope.
Sure. What is the error rate when it comes to distinguishing, and I'll just say penis cells to make it easy on myself, penis cells versus vaginal cells? Is there an error rate that you all have or a method? Well, I think you answered the question about the method. But is there an error rate to determine whether or not these are vaginal cells versus penis cells?
They are both epithelial cells, so they'll look fairly similar or identical under the microscope. And again, it's a presumptive test, so we're relying on the staining pattern if it's more than 10% consistent with a vaginal origin, rather than if it's lower than 10% being from the urethral opening or buccal cells.
Okay. Is there any error rate to determine whether sometimes it may be 10% in his penis cells versus sometimes it may be less than 10% in his vaginal cells?
For clarification, you're saying, is it possible for it to be less than 10% and coming from a vaginal?
Let me rephrase that question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And I do ask some confusing questions sometimes, so I promise you it's not you, it is me. Is there an error rate to distinguish between, I think this is the best way to ask it, to distinguish between urethral cells or vaginal cells? Is there any type of error rate where you can say 90% of the time we're right, 80% of the time we're right, 60% of the time we're right, or no, there isn't a test that we could apply to determine outside of looking at the pattern of and the staining of the cells?
Outside of looking at the staining. Sorry.
Sure. So outside of looking at the staining, there isn't any type of test to determine the error rate?
No, the epithelial cells will look fairly similar or identical.
Okay, so is there no error rate? Is it fair to say that? You don't know.
At our lab, we wouldn't necessarily identify cells from different origins of the body. Like, we use a staining. Again, we rely on the staining as the presumptive test, but we wouldn't look at a specific cell and say this is from this certain area.
Sure. So this is really just a staining test, if I was to put it in simple terms.
It's a staining procedure, correct?
Okay. Understood. Did you perform the test in this case, or was it, I believe you mentioned earlier, Did you participate in testing or did you conduct the testing in this case?
I conducted the testing.
Okay. Was the testing reviewed by anyone?
Yes.
What is the review process?
So each report case file goes through a technical review, which is performed by another qualified analyst. They review the entire case file, so the administrative pages, the photos, the report, and they determine that there's a scientific basis for the findings. After it's gone through technical review, it goes through an administrative review, which is done by lab personnel. They'll also check the case file to ensure we're with laboratory procedures, as well as check the report for grammatical errors.
And that's for a presumptive test? All those steps?
Yes.
Okay. Outside of penis cells, is there anything else that was stained chocolate brown using the Lugol's iodine test?
Some buccal cells will stain chocolate brown.
So cells in the mouth would stain chocolate brown as well?
Yes.
Is there anything else that was stained chocolate brown using the Lugol's iodine test?
Not to my knowledge.
I'd like to talk to you about the RSID saliva test. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And this is a presumptive test as well?
Yes.
All right. Now, I think I heard you correctly, but I heard two different things, so I want to check. I heard breast milk and fecal matter. Is that right?
Correct.
Did I also hear sweat?
High concentrations of sweat. Yes.
Okay. And I believe we agree that you don't know the circumstances surrounding the collection of the evidence in this case. Is that right?
That's correct.
So you don't know if the cells that you received had sweat on them. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So your conclusion is based on, or I ask you this way, what facts did you have underlying your RSID saliva test to come to the conclusion that the testing confirmed that the were consistent with the swabbings having saliva?
Just the results from the RSID saliva test.
Okay. So the underlying facts you didn't have, it was just pretty much the test itself saying, hey, this is consistent.
Correct.
Okay, that is fair. Court's indulgence. You mentioned in regards to the RSID saliva test that you did not conduct the testing, but you participated in the testing. Did I hear that wrong?
Oh, no, that was in our validation, our internal validation.
That is fair. That is fair. Do you know the error rate for the RSID saliva test?
The error rate would refer to the false positives, which are, as we mentioned, breast milk, fecal matter, high concentrations of sweat.
Okay, but we don't know if sweat was involved in that swab.
Correct.
Okay. And just for my notes, the test itself is what led you to your conclusion, just because it indicated the presence of, and I'm going to say it this way, saliva as well as sweat. Is that fair?
Yes.
I have no other questions for this witness, Your Honor. I thank you so much, Ms. Licon.
Any redirect, Mr. Bolden?
I'm going to try and keep it brief, Your Honor. I know the hour is getting late, but I do want to
Go ahead.
ask a little bit of redirect. Ma'am, I'm going to hand you what I put. This is the last two. It states 134 and 135. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
Are those, what are they?
They are the slides from the items we received.
Okay. And are those fair and accurate photographs of the slides that you described as having performed the blue ball iodine tests on?
Yes.
The tender, those sheets that are shown in 132 and 135.
Any objection?
No objection.
They are admitted for the purpose of this hearing.
All right. So, this is 134. Is this a picture of the slide that you took from your item 1, GBI item 2I?
I would have to refer to my report or my notes to double check the item number.
Do you have your report?
I do in my case file.
Oh, in your case file, okay. Well, maybe I can do it this way. The two photographs, no good way to do it. So again, are these the two photographs that you took of each sample that was tested using the Lugol iodine test?
Yes.
And again, I think there was some confusion earlier. What is the scientific theory behind glycinated cells not being as present in a buccal sample?
So amylase, which is present within saliva, will degrade glycogen. So there are glycogenated cells within buccal cells, but way less abundant. So that's why we use the 10% threshold.
And again, the peer-reviewed journal article that we talked about earlier, did that propose the theory that, I guess, affect, or not affect, might, I'm going to let you take it from there. What did that article propose?
Yeah, so the article proposed that with water extraction, and they propose a method that with rehydrating the cells, the cell walls, allow amylase back in, so that amylase can degrade the glycogen. But with the water extraction and mechanical shaking, that less than 1% of buccal cells will stain the chocolate brown color.
And in this case, and so that article proposed 1% as a kind of guideline. Mm-hmm. Did I hear earlier that Pure Gold has a 10% guideline?
Yes.
And in States 135, what are we seeing here?
This is a Lugol's positive slide.
Okay. And so are all these brown or light brown things kind of what we've been talking about?
Yes.
And then States 134, do we see any of those brown things?
No.
That's all I have.
Any recross, Mr. Cruz?
Yes, we do.
Go ahead.
So we've established that vaginal cells, penile cells, would stain dark chocolate, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you
In
could-
regards to the light color,
Thank you. She's making a recording of your responses, so thank you.
Yes.
in regards to the light colored cells, what type of items stain tan?
So epithelial cells will exhibit no staining to a light yellow staining. Also, the glycogen content of cells varies. Specifically within a vaginal source, the glycogen content varies based on the period of the menstrual cycle.
Help me understand that. I'm sorry.
At different periods of the menstrual cycle, there will be higher glycogen content or lower within the cells.
That's fair. How would this compare, and let's just say hypothetically, how would this compare to a penile sample?
You'd expect to see less dark brown staining.
How about tan stain?
Tan staining is also considered a positive. The negatives would be the light yellow.
In the material that was provided, I believe there were pictures of stains that were vaginal cells. Is that correct?
Yes.
And compared to the photos in the exhibit versus the photos that are here, and in fact, before I ask that question, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Oh, I don't have any on me.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Those are my questions for you.
Anything further of this witness?
Your Honor.
Or you may step down. All right, any argument, Mr. Bolden, on behalf of the state with regard to this motion? Well, actually, it is, you know what, it's Mr. Cruz's motion. I'm going to start with him. Mr. Cruz, any argument with regard to your motion?
I do think the state has the burden, Your Honor, so I do think I have the ability to go first and last, but I would waive and reserve last word.
You're right. You know what? You're right about that.
It's been a long day, Your
It
Honor.
has been a long day. Okay, you're right about that, but you're waiving anyway. Mr. Cruz, any argument about your motion? Thank you.
Absolutely. In
Go ahead.
regards to the RSID test, Your Honor, well, let me start with the law. As the Honorable Court is aware, under OCGA Section 24-7-702, B1 through 4, and I will specifically address B2. The testimony has to be based upon sufficient facts or data. Ms. Licon's testimony is that she didn't have any underlying facts or data regarding the swabs, only that the information that she had was that it was packaged up as oral swabs. She advised that in regards to the RSID saliva test, that not only would it test positive for saliva, but it would also test positive for sweat. And the state did not take any steps to eliminate that sweat would have been a cause of the positive test. As the Honorable Court is aware, a witness testified that Ms. Baker, and I believe it was Mr. Falzone, but I don't want to stand certain, but I do believe it was Mr. Falzone, stated that Ms. Baker was alive for a period of time before she passed away. Obviously, as the Honorable Court is aware, sweat, it'll draw on your body. If you're sweating down in your mouth, it'll go in your mouth. But the state took no steps to eliminate for the RSID saliva test that is something other than sweat or saliva, Your Honor. Also, she stated that this is a presumptive test. We heard testimony from a DNA expert, I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, that talked about the importance of confirmatory tests. This is a test that simply indicates the presence of a substance that could be consistent with, again, sweat or saliva. And again, she didn't have any facts or underlying data to make the determination of whether either one is or which one is present. Additionally, and I think most importantly, and this may go to another factor as opposed to two, I believe this one goes to B as a whole, she's admitted that she has never testified or been qualified as an expert to testify about Lugo's iodine testing. As the Honorable Court is aware, when it comes to the type of science that's admitted under Daubert, it is a higher standard than the Harper standard. And here, Your Honor, I found no cases where the Lugol's iodine test has been accepted in the court. And I could show the Honorable Court, we could do a search on Westlaw, but I found no cases where a court has admitted it. And And even Ms. Licon states she's never been admitted as an expert to talk about the the RSID saliva presumptive test. So that would be my request to the Honorable Court in regards to the RSID saliva test, is to exclude it based upon saying it is not a set in stone science. It sounds more so like it's indicative of multiple different things. There's no way to confirm whether or not it's saliva. It's just a presumptive test, as she stated, that indicates the presence of an item. In regards to the Lugol's iodine test, she stated that the urethra of a penis could stain chocolate brown. She stated that buccal cells could stain dark chocolate brown. And she stated that there was no specific way to know whether or not the cells were penile cells or vaginal cells, except for just looking at the number and determining whether or not 10% of the cells stained positive. The state presented a picture that included dark brown cells. However, the state at no time elicited testimony from this witness, and it's their burden, that established that that was more than 10%. The Honorable Court didn't hear a number. We just saw a picture. It's a lot of cells. Some are lighter colors than others. So we would ask in regards to the Lugol's test, because we can't differentiate what's what, and the only basis that she has in regards to determining what the substance is just saying that it indicates the presence of the substance, Your Honor. But I think the biggest issue we have are 2 points, and I'll make it simple. The biggest issues we have, there's no confirmatory test. She stated there's no confirmatory test on this. We don't know what this substance is. We don't know if it's sweat. For the Lugol's, we don't know what the substance is. The second one, Your Honor, it's never been admitted. The state has presented no evidence that this type of testing has ever been admitted in a Georgia court before, in a criminal case or a civil case. So I would ask, based on those grounds, the Honorable Court excludes the speculative science of the presumptive test of the RSID saliva test, as well as the Lugol's iodine test. Thank you so much for your time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Bolden.
Your Honor, I'm going to try to be brief. I think we've been going at it all day, and I don't know that if I can approach.
May.
I won't speak for Mr. Cruz, but I'm going to try and. It's hard to stay focused after such a long day, so I'm going to try and be brief. I agree with Mr. Cruz that I did not find a case anywhere in the country that stands for the proposition that the Lugol iodine test is admissible under Daubert. I don't know that that's ever been considered before. I don't know if the court may well prove me wrong, but I did look. But I handed the case of U.S. v. Brown. I had a copy for defense counsel and for the court. This is an 11th Circuit case. 415 F. 3rd, 1257. It is a 2005 case. And I won't get into the type of expert testimony that the government intended to offer or did offer in that case, because I didn't understand it. But there is some just really interesting language about Daubert in general. And I'm going to direct the court to, if you go to the second column of page 10 of the printout that I just handed you, first stands for the proposition that evidentiary decisions are reviewed under an abuse of discretion standard. And then the 11th Circuit goes on to say that they defer to district courts on evidentiary rulings for a handful of reasons. One is that difficult evidentiary rulings turn on matters uniquely within the purview of the court, which has firsthand access to documentary evidence and is physically proximate to testifying witnesses and the jury. Being at the trial as the proceedings occur and the evidence unfolds, a trial judge has an advantageous familiarity with the proceedings and that may not have insights conveyed by the record. That goes on to page 11. The 11th Circuit goes on to say that the second reason they give deference to a trial court is because it is not possible, and this is the second paragraph on the left column of page 11, it is often not possible to precisely calibrate rules for many different circumstances that can arise. It goes on to say that this is a case-specific, detailed, factual determination. The last paragraph talks about how this abuse of discretion applies even more in the areas of Daubert. It says that's where it actually, the language is wonderful. It says that the review of evidentiary issues are even greater in Daubert issues, because that is where the abuse of discretion standard thrives. The trial court is familiar with the facts and details of the case, and the task of evaluating the reliability of expert testimony is entrusted to the trial court. There, the 11th Circuit found that only one of the 4 Daubert factors were met. And they said that the question then is whether expert opinion evidence that does not meet 3 of the 4 Daubert factors nevertheless can be admitted. In the right circumstances, the answer to that question is yes. And I'm on the middle of the right-hand column of page 12. Goes on to say that the inquiry envisioned by 702 is a flexible one. I'm almost done quoting the case. On page 13, the district court found that test and the court can obviously probably read better than I can at this point about the type of witnesses that the government had tendered as experts, but that their expert opinions were based on their knowledge, skill, and experience, and based on sufficient facts and data. And there was no abuse of discretion. I do point out, lastly, at the bottom of the left-hand column of page 13, that the trial court has not just a heavy thumb, but really a thumb and a finger or two on the scale of admission of evidence under Daubert. And so I point all that out to say this. I think that what Pure Gold was asked to do, and I think that what Ms. Licon has testified to tonight needs to be considered in the circumstances of the facts that the court already has before it. So Dr. Falzon testified that he collected oral, vaginal, and anal swabs. We tendered the swabs that are in evidence, and in case the court has forgotten, the whole issue here is that an X was labeled on an oral swab that was really a vaginal swab. That is the state's position. That has always been the state's position. Dr. Falzon testified that all 3 were collected. He testified that, and we have in evidence, vaginal, oral, and rectal smears, which he testified that a smear can only be created from a swab. And I'd go one step further, and I do think that the court can, in fact, take judicial notice of evidence that was tendered in the Daubert hearing related to true allele, because the state did, excuse me, the state did at that hearing tender the results of true allele. And if the court may not remember, but I can state in my place, that item 2I, which is what the state contends is the actual oral swab, only has the DNA profile of the defendant, Mr. Faust. Item 2J has the DNA profile of Chris Melton and of Edrick Faust. So they're not the same. So when you look at all of those factors, you look at the tests that Ms. Licon described, which I would argue are based on scientifically valid theory, that they have been subject to peer review. And so at least 2 of the Dahlberg factors have been met. Based on sufficient facts or data, it is the product of reliable principles and methods. I do think in this context, especially when we are only asked to determine a very limited question, not just are these the same or are they different, but which one is more likely to be an actual vaginal swab? I think that the state has met its burden as it relates to Dahlberg, and I would ask that the court allow Ms. Licon to testify at the trial to that effect.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. All right, with regard to Mr. Cruz's motion, the first thing I want to emphasize is that the court has already allowed Ms. Licon to be admitted as an expert in the area of forensic chemistry and forensic biology. With regard to 702, I'm making a finding that the state has met its burden, and I'm making a finding for these reasons. First, it is obviously very clear that this expert's scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge will help the trier of fact to understand the evidence or to determine a fact and issue. I mean, that's just clear. And anyway, I'm not going to say any more about that. I think that you can't really argue with that. Number 2, the testimony is based, and this is under 702, the testimony is based upon sufficient facts or data. The argument that the defense has made about factor number 2 not being met because the evidence that she received may not have been sufficient is actually not what number 2 is about. The testimony that she provided was that she tested what she got, and whether the pieces of evidence that she tested were sufficient is a matter of weight. It doesn't actually go to 702. And so I'm making a finding that number 2 has been met. I'm going to jump to let me go to number 3. I think number 3 is the one that we're sort of arguing about. The testimony is the product of reliable principles and methods.